Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Great. Welcome to Lesbian to Taking Over the World. We have two guest speakers today, and they are friends of mine. They've been in a relationship for 7 months. Can I ask you? So I'm fascinated by this subject because I feel like with it being 2020, that I've dated. I'm white, and I've dated. My family are actually. I'm half Jewish, so I'm actually an immigrant. Because what I find funny is that if I get in a taxi and the taxi driver's a racist, right, he'll start speaking to me about being racist, and he thinks because I'm white that I'm going to agree with him, and it really annoys me. And then when I explain to him that my dad's a Jewish immigrant, and he fled the Nazis from Yugoslavia and came. So I'm actually, if it wasn't for immigration and I wouldn't exist. And then as soon as I explain that I'm actually Jewish and I'm actually second generation immigrant, then they get really funny with me because it's like, well, just because I'm white doesn't mean that I'm going to be, and I'm British doesn't mean I'm automatically just going to be a horrible fucking racist. And actually when they find out that that I'm Jewish and from an immigrant family, it really freaks them out. But what I'm fascinated by is that, like, when I've dated somebody of colour in Leeds, I got no issues whatsoever. Nobody even blinked an eye. But weirdly, when I lived down in London, I was dating this girl from. She was British, but her parents were from Jamaica, so she was black, and it was really difficult. Like her family didn't want her dating a white girl. The community were very like, you two shouldn't, you shouldn't be mixing. What the expression they used was, what was it? You should only date a sister. That's what they said to her. And I'd never come across that before. I didn't realise that that parts of the UK is still like that. That's so archaic. To me, that's like 1950s. That you can't have an interracial couple. It's just so. Is it in Newcastle that you experienced that, Sarah?
Yes.
So is that do you think parts of Newcastle are still quite old-fashioned then and archaic in there?
Well, we had the riots last weekend, which obviously the demonstrations. So you had one end. We have a very famous monument he wasn't anti-slaver, so it's actually quite a positive monument, if that makes sense, compared to a lot of the because he was a major, what they used to call a lefty and a liberal, but not like in relation to lefty liberal of now, but back. Obviously when he was around. It's Gray's monument. And I mean the demonstrations have really been hard for me as a nurse to agree with a lot of it, because I do agree with standing up for matters, but I don't agree in this current pandemic to be doing it like that, because I think it's
endangering to I understand what you're saying, spreading the disease.
In there of a generation who, I have a lot of respect for the younger generations. I'm probably going to sound like a right old fart to your listeners, but I do feel sometimes when you're in that age group of being in your 20s, because I've been in my 20s, it was a while ago, you are very wrapped up in your own self and what's going on for you, and don't look at the bigger picture, and they're the age group that can be carriers but don't get sick. It's really hard, but that's going by what I'm trying to say is, though, but you had one side of the monument, you had the BLM group, the Black Lives Matters, and then the other side of the monument, you had a group of all white people saying, calling themselves protectors of Newcastle, and they were basically, because there's quite a large
alt-right. Would they consider alt-right?
Yeah, far right up here. Like, there is quite a lot of people who are part of that.
Wow.
And the people that actually cause the violence, because I being a public sector worker, I have mixed views with the police, because I don't think the majority of police are racist. I think there's just sadly an element in there that is, because there's been sides of things that we've seen in the demonstrations where police have tried to help demonstrators, and police of all different colours and creeds, and have been attacked by the demonstrators, and I find that hard, because it's not, the police are sent there to try and protect people and to try and stop unrest, and they were stuck in the middle. But the people who were violent were the people who were saying to protect the Northeast, and I don't want to be associated with those people, because I am a white Geordie woman who does not want to be associated with those people, because I do believe that everybody's life matters, that I have a duty of care, and I can't walk past somebody if they've hurt themselves. And I don't know if it's just because I'm a nurse, but I'm very passionate about us, everybody loving, I mean, I'm not perfect, but I get quite upset. And you could hear the videos because the Chronicle had it on, and they were like saying take the horse down and stuff like this, and I'm very about for animals as well. So I was mortified at their behaviour.
What you were saying about the Newcastle people generally, I think I was just listening to you to discuss, and then I just had this realization that obviously Sarah mentioned that I was not comfortable being affectionate in public when I was in Newcastle, or hold hands, because I was obviously aware of my Africanness and the fact that I was with a white woman in a place where I'm minority. So as much as possible, I did not want to draw any attention to us. So obviously, I mean, as she mentioned that she's much shorter than me, and I'm very tall. So when we're just walking, you can easily see the distinction, and obviously that may make us stand out to some people, and because by virtue of our differences and our differences in height, putting us almost on a spotlight, I really was not comfortable in drawing more attention to us, because of what's going to go on. Because obviously,
what do you think would happen? This is what I'm fascinated by. Like if you would you do the same? Would you be publicly affectionate to each other if you were in a different city? Say, for example, if you were in the gay village in Manchester, would you do it there? Is it? I'm trying to work out if it's.
Yeah.
You're worried about bigots in Newcastle.
I probably will just here because here, like growing up,
I don't mind anywhere, because I'm very I'm very much that you should be able to live your life how you want to, because of this. We're supposed to be in a democracy and things are supposed to be improving. So I would have happily held Terry's hand wherever we were. I mean, I'm not a person, but I'm old fashioned, as in being all snoggy
PDA,
and kissy.
Yeah, I don't do PDA either.
Because I do PDA public, and that's probably, it might be an age thing. I'm the same. And giving someone a hug and stuff, I would do that anywhere. But I always respected Terry's wishes, because I would always respect my partner's choice. My ex-girlfriend was white, and she wouldn't show affection and wouldn't hold hands in public neither. So is that because of the gay stigma of she was worried about getting worried about?
Because I was to say, when I dated a much older woman than me when I was young, and the reason she wouldn't hold my hand in public was she was she was out and gay in the 70s, and she got really badly, she got beat up, she had shit through her letterbox. So for her, she wasn't, even though my generation, it was perfectly okay to hold hands now, but she couldn't get past what had happened to her in the 70s,
Yeah.
But I'm fascinated to know about the racial side of it. So do you think, I don't know, it kind of it really upsets me, to be honest, the fact that here you are, you've got these two, let me put it this way, if you two were straight, if one of you was a man and one of you was a woman, but you're the races that you are, would you, you're the same height that you are now and the same, but you just happen to be, one happens to be a man and a woman, do you think you'd still get, you still get shit from people, or get looked at strangely in the street because you're an interracial couple?
Well, to be honest, I don't know what the experience of heterosexuals would be like. But from my end point,
true.
I mean, as you were saying that,
but the racial side of it plays a part. Yeah, you think?
It obviously does for me. I probably would behave in a similar manner, just having grown up in a completely different culture and country where it's completely unacceptable, where you cannot afford to do that in the future. I mean, in the public, and also from a tradition that is also community focused, where whatever deed you do, you also have to think about the whole community as a whole. So it's not like I do what I want, I have my right, I want to do this. We don't have that much. So we have to think about what's my mom going to think about this, and I have family to think about and things like that. So we have other people at the back of our minds.
So do you think
so before we do things, the decision is not.
So what you're saying is that, like, what you're saying is that it's the same reason as my ex-girlfriend who wouldn't hold my hand, even though she knew that, you know, in the year, I think would have been 10 years ago. So she said that even though she knows it's acceptable for two women to hold hands now, in the back of her mind, subconsciously, she had the memories of her youth. So is that what you're saying? That, like, even though you're in the UK and you feel like it's more accepted, it is accepted.
I think even when I'm in the UK, I know that the people that would not approve of this kind of lifestyle, because they are obviously there. In spite of people being more open-minded, obviously there are people that don't approve of this, but it's okay. So I'm actually having that in the back of my mind, that I don't know. I can't.
Do you mean bumping into people in the street who are from Africa? Is that what you mean?
No, there are obviously some Europeans that are not for homosexuality. You know, like there are obviously some Europeans that don't necessarily approve of this lifestyle, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
do you think, to ask both of you, right? Both of you the question now. So do you think, let's not just say Newcastle, but let's take like three major, let's take like Birmingham, Leeds, Newcastle, right? Let's say you went to a concert down in Birmingham or Leeds and you were in Newcastle. Do you think that if you two were, let's just say you were holding hands in the street, right, and it was obvious that you're a couple, do you think that people would be bigoted enough to be judging you on the fact that one of you's white and one of you's black? Do you think that still goes on then?
Sarah, do you want to answer that?
I suppose from my perspective, because this is going to sound really flippant, because I don't really give a shit about what other people think. I don't kind of take much notice, but I have.
But have you experienced, like, is there, because I'm just fascinated because it still goes on.
I've experienced it more from Terry's perspective, because I've seen people looking at us and then they end up looking more at her, and it's not in a, we've had experiences we have like a metro system here, but I respected Terry's wishes to not speak out, because I'm 5 foot nothing, Gemma, so I'm a tiny little, but I'm quite formidable when I get going, like in normal,
like a proper Geordie lass, yeah.
I don't tolerate
shit.
I don't tolerate it, and also because I'm quite with the spectrum, don't have a very good filter sometimes. That's why I struggle with some of the things I was trying to explain to you, because I get a bit mixed up. I get me words mixed up sometimes.
Well, that was me as well. I'd actually got confused, but that was my fault. Sorry.
I do get I tend.
So
I just find it. I think it happens everywhere still, because I do think there's still the element in this country, sadly, and I do think it'll. But what you've got to, I think, what we have to do going forward, and I think what me and Terry are trying to do, because we are, even though we're now in a long distance relationship at the moment, we are very committed going forward to be together and work on being positive, and but I'll always respect Terry's wishes and respect her culture, because it's part of her.
Of course,
I think sometimes
so you're respecting, even though I see what you mean, you're respecting her wishes, because you're compromising and
but I am, but I don't mind, because I I almost think sometimes, and Terry might be, I hope she's not offended by me saying this, but I almost feel like she has her own a little bit internal homophobia, which I think we all do at some point when we're coming out.
Yeah.
And in that whole, because you're torn, like she's torn with her culture and also being her true self. And it's...
well, it's because the fear, you know, how can you not have a fear ingrained into you when you've been taught from a young age that it's disgusting? So it might not be homophobic, but it's kind of like, like you say, it's kind of like...
You do hear this expression, don't you, internalised homophobia, when you start to understand your own sexuality and coming out in the conflicts that you have. So,
but do you think if you, so do you think, just as a question, do you think if you were two white women walking down the street, do you think you'd get less strange looks then?
Possibly.
It's just I'm just absolutely blown away that in 2020, you know, that.
But then you shouldn't be
the colour of your skin. It's just crazy, you know. I know we can't help it. It's just the way it is. But I'm blown away by that. What's
happened recently is just highlighted that it isn't. There is still a problem. So it's really sad because, like,
it's actually outrageous. Is it? You know, if you think that the 1950s.
It also makes me sad because you know, like, if anything, if a pandemic doesn't highlight that actually we're all like, doesn't matter who you are, it can get to anybody. Do you know what I mean? And if that doesn't
you're so right. It should have brought us closer. Although it's horrific, it should have brought us closer together. And actually, it's obviously with the Black Lives Matter movement, which I do think is very important. But
I think it's very important. But what scares me with the Black Lives Matter is actually, in this country in particular, it's some of those groups who've actually been more affected by COVID. There's been more death rates, and so it worries me when people are collecting together in demonstrating, and that these young people are actually putting their older relatives at risk. And that's what I get, like, from a health point of view, get chewed about, because I think I do totally agree that with what's going on, but I worry that they're going to end up doing more harm to their own community, but not through doing it intentionally, because they don't realise how this disease, I mean, I think now that they've reduced the government have reduced the restrictions, I think people think it's gone away, and it hasn't.
I know, it really hasn't. I know. I've heard people say it's finished now, and I'm like, no, there's less cases because we had lockdown, but now we're lifting lockdown. There's going to be a spike, and it's going to get worse, and it hasn't gone away. It's just that lockdown prevented more cases.
I was in the queue today, I took my son to the coast, and I was queuing for our pre-ordered drinks and cake. Cake's very important. And there was a couple of people in the queue, and I didn't get into that conversation because I just thought I can't because I'll end up
fighting,
getting frustrated. And this guy was saying, I know so-and-so that works in this hospital, and, like, there's been loads of people dying of, like, pneumonia and this and cancer. I don't think this COVID's as bad as they say, And I just stood there, and because COVID, the actual disease, and when you get it, is actually a horrendous death. And I just thought, dear God, like,
I lost two family members to it in the first 3 weeks of the outbreak. Yeah. And when people say to me, it's not real, as you can imagine, from my point of view, and because I'm disabled and I have underlying conditions, so I'm at risk as well. It's very upsetting to me when they say that. And, like, I don't know if you know about this, but Liverpool, Liverpool they won some big league or something, I can't remember, yesterday, and thousands of people were out in the streets, not adhering to, and there was a big uproar about it, because they're all drunk. Like, thousands of people took to the street. This was last night. Took to the street, got drunk, and none of them, not a single one of. Well, okay, some of them would have been doing the thingy, but and it's just like, and as one of my friends on Facebook said, She said, I'm disgusted. She said, any one of my friends that's a Liverpool fan that went out last night and joined crowds of thousands of people and stood next to each other, shoulder to shoulder, cheering on and getting drunk. She said, I'm ashamed of you. I'm sorry, but I think it's disgusting. The fact that you're putting people's lives at risk for the sake of having a party. She was like, it's just not on, you know? Like, COVID is not over. And you might not die, but you may have killed somebody else by proxy, by you know, through...
So that's why I get frustrated with the demonstrations and the marches, because I do fully believe I have marched in my past when I was younger, but I just think there are better ways of doing it at the minute.
Yeah.
At the minute, you put more people at risk by doing this, and it's not the young people who are demonstrating. It's not the young people who are going to illegal raves, because when they get it very mild, and sometimes they don't even know they've had it.
Mm-hmm.
They're very good at creating hive communities, which is what the government wants.
Yeah.
But it's a funny time,
Yeah.
it ain't going to be not for at least 2 years. So
Do you think 2 years? Yeah.
we've been told in the health profession that
Yeah.
it'll be at least years, because it'll probably take that long to get a vaccine. But the world will go back to some sort of new normal, because it'll have to, because otherwise the economy
will crash. Yeah. What's it, Terry? What's it like in Zimbabwe? Are you in full lockdown?
Yeah, we're still in lockdown, but some people don't follow the rules that much. But we are. We have cases coming in, but mostly from outside. So we have people coming from South Africa, are the ones that are bringing, but they're just going straight to the quarantine center. So.
Oh, you have quarantine centres, right? And how are you finding it? Is it difficult? Is it, you know, what's it like over there? Is it difficult, you know, going to getting food, shopping and things like that?
No, not at all. I mean, during the first days of lockdown, obviously we used to queue outside and social distancing outside. They would allow in a specific number of people into the shop and making sure it's well ventilated. Well, some of them, but from observation, it's not happening that much lately. Yeah. When I've gone shopping, past few times recently, it's just walking straight into the shop. Oh, you do have people checking your temperature at the entrance and sanitizing your hand and your trolley if you have one. But besides that, just people are just going about their business, really. It's weird, really. It's like people have come to adjust to it. And I mean, obviously, about 3 months ago, we were all in fear. I mean, I remember when Sarah was being a nurse, obviously, and being exposed to it, how worried I would be, and how I'd be telling her to take dietary supplements and, you know, take an immune boosting diet and try take bone broth. I know I used to just hammer on her, just, you know, like we can't afford to have you getting infected, and, you know. So, but now I think because I don't know, it's just I'm just from observation from what's going on here.
And Gemma, if you've got comorbidities, I'm glad you're being sensible and keeping yourself safe.
Yeah, I've been. I mean, I say I've been shielding. I even before COVID, I'd spend so much of my time bedridden, housebound anyway. So when COVID hit, it was funny because all my friends and family were like going crazy, and they were like, you know, why aren't you affected? I went, because this is my life. I'm bedridden 80% of the time. I'm housebound. So when COVID hit, there was absolutely no change for me whatsoever. It was exactly the same life, you know.
Yeah.
Quite a major thing to take on board, because you're not old. So I have a lot of respect for you that you're so upbeat and positive.
Oh, because of my illness, yeah. Oh, don't get me wrong. The first year was, Jesus, I was suicidal. You can imagine. I got Go on, sorry.
Is that you? I'm being nosy. You don't have to tell me if you don't want to. What it is that you've had affect you?
Yeah, I was living out in Mexico in the jungle. I was doing wildlife conservation, so I was literally in the jungle, like in the swamplands and that. And I got bitten by I got Lyme's disease.
Oh no!
Yeah, so and because my immune system was so kind of corrupted, it gave me other things as well. So I got Addison's disease, and I've got basically it's like I've got fibromyalgia, ME, Addison's, and Lyme's disease. So I'm bedridden about 8. I can walk, but I can only walk maybe like, on a good day I can walk maybe like 5-10 minutes without collapsing before I collapse. So I have to. And before COVID, I had a carer who used to come every couple of days, every other day, and she was, thank God for her, you know, she would like, because I can't keep on top of obviously I can't cook. I could probably cook. I can't cook a full meal, but I could maybe make a sandwich, maybe like twice a week. But I can't cook a full meal for myself, or I can't like I can't lift heavy things. I can't empty the bin and things like that.
For me, and I've had it since my teens.
Oh, have you had ME? Have you? Did you have ME?
Maybe, like I say, since my teenager. But I'm really lucky with mine, because I've learned to manage it quite well with it. So I'm really, really lucky. It's but I had it really bad when I was younger. But it's.
Yeah,
So,
I had ME when I was 20, the same as you, when I was about, I think I was about 21 when I first, they called it stress narcolepsy back then, or that's what they thought I had, or whatever, it's a different name now. And then I got rid of it. I managed to go into, what you call it, remission, I guess, or whatever, for 7 years. But then obviously when I got Lyme's disease, it triggered it again, because I was so, you know, I'm in so much pain all the time. I mean, I'm in constant pain, you see, all the time, like, it's kind of like rheumatoid arthritis, similar pain.
Yeah, my dad's got severe autoimmune disorders. He's in pain on a daily basis, and I'm fascinated by it. And not in a sick way. I find it. I just think there's so much more research and stuff that needs to be looked into it, because
definitely,
a lot of consultants are quite poo-pooey about it. It's took my dad. He still hasn't got his full-on diagnosis. He has to use anti-malaria medication just to keep his symptoms at bay, which is bizarre because he's never had malaria. But that's the type of drugs that they use to. Yeah,
it was really different. The first year, because I was a really active person. Like I used to travel a lot, and I was just a very physical active. I'm one of those. I was a workaholic, you know. So for me, it was I was 30 when I got sick, and it was, God, that first year, I don't know how I made it through it, because you have to mourn your previous life.
Yeah.
You know, like I can't just walk to the shop. I've got 2 dogs, and I luckily the house I live in, obviously the kids here, they walk the dogs for me every day, and they're fantastic. And I've got a huge garden, so I can take my Zimmer frame and go into the garden, and the garden is so big that even though I'm housebound, I feel like I have kind of like a small village to explore almost, you know, because I have lots of people here. But the first year, oh my God, yeah, it was horrific, because just the idea that I was trapped in my bed, and it wasn't just that, it was the pain. The pain was so overwhelming. It was so excruciating. It sometimes it feels like I've been tortured. I've been on a torture rack the night before. I'm sure your dad's it's told you.
Does it? Well, because I do get little flare-ups, and when I do, my pain and my fatigue are the 2 things that are horrendous. But that's why I get frustrated with my mum when she gets annoyed with my dad, because I don't think she gets it. I think I wonder if there's some geneticism. That's probably not a word, and I've probably made it up. But
it sounds right though.
Very, very like my father, like not in his bigotism, by the way, but his biology. You know what I mean? Even though he's a man.
Yeah.
I'm born the same.
Oh, hang on, Teresa, you there?
Yeah, I'm back. Yeah, I'm just gonna go. I'm just gonna warm something up.
Okay.
I do think I do think there's must be some sort of genetics to it as well, because like any of these autoimmune, I do think there must be a genetic link. I do, because I see it in families as well with my nursing and stuff, because I do obviously a lot of community.
Yeah.
and I do wonder, yeah.
Yeah,
So
I've never. It's not. It's there's no. Nobody else in my family has. Although to be fair, I got Lyme's disease anyway, so that would have been. But even with it, the ME, like, there's nobody unless there was grandparents and ancestors I don't know about that had it.
but if they've had like certain types of arthritis, because I think they're all linked. I think it's all, the autoimmune's a very fascinating system, and it's not fully understood. And it is. So I have a lot of respect for you that you actually don't just, because I have known people who've just given up and taken to their bed, not just because they're unwell, but they've allowed it to break their mind as well. And I don't think you have, and I think that deserves a lot of respect, to be honest.
Well, that's nice. I find it really difficult to take a compliment because I'm from a northerner, so I'm just like yeah. Anyway, I did. Don't get me wrong. I would say the first year I lost my mind. I really did. It broke me. I was every week I was trying to kill myself. It was horrific, and then the way I got through it was I went onto Facebook groups and talked to other people that had my illness, and I was like, okay, you know what, like the way I got over the pain side of it was that I went on to an all natural pain medication.
Yeah.
So I started taking CBD, turmeric, cherry, like certain fruits have anti-inflammatory properties. So when I went onto an all natural medicine, then the pain was reduced a lot. Not completely, but enough that I stopped wanting to kill myself, from the pain. And then it was just a case of, all right, I need to I'm trapped in bed, I can't work anymore. I'm I'm fatigued all the time, and it's really difficult to know. In my room, I have 5 clocks, and I've got a dementia clock because my brain fog is so bad, as you know with ME. My brain fog is so bad that I'm like, I never know what day it is all the time, and it doesn't matter how many times I remind myself. If I have it on my phone, like I'll still forget within an hour. So yeah, I have dementia clocks. I do things like that. But the way I started thinking about it, I was like, okay, I can't work because there's no way I can keep to a deadline. Because I used to be a graphic designer and a web designer, and so I was like, well, maybe I can work from home, from my bed. But of course, my brain fog was so bad that the first job that I did, I ended up deleting 12 years worth of emails for this client.
Sorry, I shouldn't laugh. Oh my God.
And it was funny because like my family and friends were like, a lot of people used to say to me, oh well, like this will horrify you, right? This electrician came round, and bear in mind, before I was a graphic designer, I was an electrician for 6 years, right? So this bloke comes around, he's an electrician, and he's doing the electrics in my house, and he sees me hobble. I've got my Zimmer frame and me walking sticks, and he sees me hobble in my dressing gown into the lounge, and he said, oh, what's wrong with you type thing. And I was like, I've tried to explain to him, and he said, oh, if I was you, I'd still work. He was like, as long as you can move your finger, you can still work on a till, you can still do a job. He said, if I was you, I'd still be working. And I was like, and I thought, I was so tired and I was in so much pain that I didn't have the strength to explain to him that even though he's seen me hobble from one end of the room to the other and sit down and have a drink and make a drink of water, does not mean that the rest of the day he's not going to see me the rest of the day. He doesn't know what I go through on a daily basis and how horrific. I mean, for me, I can't wash myself most days. I can't cook. I can maybe, on a good day, I can maybe potter out into the garden for a little bit, but that's about it. And so for him to be sitting there saying, oh well, if you can move your finger, you can still work, it was just so offensive. Because, and the other thing is that I want to work. I absolutely love working. It's one of the things that makes you so depressed when you become disabled. The biggest cause of depression when you become disabled is not actually the illness, it's the fact that you can't work anymore, so you haven't got a purpose, and it's the way people treat you. It's not actually the illness that makes you depressed. A large part of it is how you're treated by society and how you feel like you're like, for me, the biggest issue I had was that I feel like I'm a burden on society, because I can't put back into the community, So that's why I started to do online projects. But I made sure that the online projects that I'm doing are like that don't have deadlines, and I only have to do them. I only do them when and as I feel I have the energy to do something. You know what I mean?
I'm here. I was
Oh.
just warming up my food. Jam, I always see some of the posts that you put on Facebook. That is how I get to appreciate what you go through. Just like you're saying, it's harder to have a good appreciation of what a person is going through unless you experience it yourself. But when some of them posts you put on Facebook gives me like a picture, an idea, and so I can empathize. And I remember you refer to it as like do they refer to it as like a hidden sickness where
Yeah, they call
it's
it
not really
they call it an invisible
yeah.
invisible illness. Yeah, because I don't look sick. You see, if you see me in real life, I don't look ill. So people automatically, I don't get sympathy from the general public because for some reason people need to see that you look ill to give you sympathy. It's strange.
I know, yeah.
Yeah.
I know. So I mean, and also just knowing that you're not the only person that's going through this kind of things. Like, I mean, I've seen several posts from different people that have the same kind of illness that is invisible, where obviously when other people look at them, it's difficult for them to kind of empathize because obviously they want to see the sickness written all over you for them to appreciate what you're going through.
And that's
So
one of the reasons I post about it on Facebook is because I've had a few friends say to me, you shouldn't talk about what it is that you're going through with your illness on Facebook because they said that it's number one, it's private, and number two, you shouldn't be putting telling people like, oh, look at me, woe is me, almost like you're looking for sympathy. And I said, no, that I don't agree with you. I said, I'm sorry. I said, but I feel like I have a duty to teach and educate people who maybe have never experienced, or maybe they've never had a partner or a family member that are chronically ill. And I said, no, I don't agree with you. I think I should talk about it. I said, I think because otherwise, how is anyone going to learn what it is that somebody else might be going through who is disabled? So, and they were saying, oh, well, you shouldn't, and then when I explained it to them in that way, they understood then why I'm so open and honest on my Facebook about some of the bad days that I have. But as you notice on my Facebook, I also talk about the good days too. I'll say like, oh, I managed to go to the park today, and I'll post a video of me on I have a 3-wheel electric mobility bike, and maybe like once every 2 weeks I manage to get out into the park with it, and I'll post a video and I'll say, this is me having a good day, I'm really happy, and then I'll post about when I'm having a bad day and I've been bedridden the whole 2 days and I'm in agony. And I found it a little bit kind of, that it was funny that I had certain friends that thought I was being too honest and I shouldn't have talked about it. And I said, no, I don't think you're right. I think you're wrong. I think there's a lot of people that still need educating about chronic illnesses, and it's not their fault. I mean, how would they, unless you become disabled, how would you know what it feels like? So I feel like it's my duty to do that.
I think for a lot of people, it's their own uncomfortableness, and that is what they're actually struggling with. That it makes them reflect how they are about things. Because I'm very open about my learning disabilities and being on the spectrum, and some people get really uncomfortable when I talk about it and I say things, but it's to do with, I've learned to realize that I'll always be like this and I will be open about it, and it's for them to just deal with it in their own way. If they can't deal with it, that's their problem, because it's took me a long time to accept that I am different to other people.
I think good on you. I think you're educating people through personal experience, and I think it's fantastic.
It's took a long time, and there's been a lot of self-loathing because of the way people behave, basically. So I know before when you said about the bubble, I do know that part of me, and I do know that I am the white bubble in that sense. But I also do, I think, because I work with the public, I've worked with them all my life, I sometimes wonder why. But I've always had a very good relationship with anybody I've looked after, and I think it's because I see them as a human being.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that we seem to miss and what we forget. And it's that bit that's in the word human, and humanity seems to get lost.
Yeah, it's almost like sometimes I feel like the internet, you know, in one way it's a great technology, but in another way it's kind of it's highlighted our differences, and then it gives certain people who are full of hatred a platform to highlight those differences as a negative thing. And in some ways, you know, when the internet first came out, I was so excited about it, but then because I thought it was going to bring us closer together. You know, I thought, oh my God, this is a great way that around the world we're going to all bring us.
It didn't,
and it did.
like,
Yeah, it actually started to divide us more, which was horrifying.
I think it's caused more harm than good in a lot of ways, but that's just me. It might be a generation thing, but I mean, I long for in my future, me and Terry have talked about this together, I want to be more rural. I want to be where there's less people. And be quite self-sustainable, because I just get
Bogged down
debated with the whole. I've always been a very full-on nurse, and I've always done either palliation, a lot of community, very much involved in patients and their lives, and I always give a lot of me because of the type of personality I am. I'm not bigging myself up. Because I'm so open, like I'm very open, I kind of absorb everybody else's kind of, if they've got stuff going on. So it's, but I just get sad now. Like I've started to have to, and it's not that I try to choose to ignore the things that are going on, but for my own sanity.
Yeah, me too.
My own sanity, I'm having to actually.
Yeah, I think a lot of people. I mean, I can't watch I used to watch the news all the time.
Yeah.
And I just can't, like, because as you know with ME, stress.
Yeah.
When I get stressed, I get very, very ill, especially with the Addisons. So I have to just stop watching the news now, which is sad, but it's just like I can't. There's only so much pain and suffering I can watch and see before I need to just actually be at peace with myself and try and be happy in myself, you know.
So I think the blog, it's also trying to be uplifting and like with what you're doing, and I think that's a positive thing. It's talking about things that matter, but also.
Well, I wanted to. The whole point of the podcast, the website, the blog, and the podcast was that the three of us know what it's like to be, you know, to be queer, gay, whatever, lesbian, whatever the label you want to use. It can be quite isolating, I think. And I think, like, unless you've got a big friendship group of lesbians, like, there's not a lot of people. Like, I feel like most of my friends are straight, or if they're not straight, they're bi, but they're dating, you know, they're in a straight relationship. And so the types of jokes and the types of issues that you talk about, it's never about what it's like to be with two women. It's never about these things that we went through coming out, or what it's like to walk down the street as two women together. And that was the whole reason I thought, well, this podcast actually would be quite important, was for the community, so that you don't feel so isolated being a gay woman. So you can hear other people talking about the issues of what it's like to be two women together in today's society. You know what I mean?
I think.
Yeah.
Like a sense of community almost, but within our own little lesbian community, if that makes sense.
I just want to be happy and live a, you know,
chilled.
Yeah.
Because when I
I think.
Go on, sorry, Terry.
I mean, I appreciate what you were saying about, I mean, wanting to be around people that are the same as you, because I mean the fact that it can be isolating sometimes, especially I mean for people that stay in communities where it's not necessarily acceptable. So I mean just having people around that are like you, that you can openly talk about I mean, you can openly talk to about gay issues and lesbian issues without without having to hold back, but really comfortably. So it's something that's really good. Even I found pleasure, like I was telling you about your earlier podcast with your ex, that I used to find it really soothing to listen to it, because not only because of how natural it was, but because it's two lesbian women that are just talking about their lives. So it's just so pleasant to just listen to two gay women openly talking about their gayness.
Yeah, exactly.
So I mean, being part of it, listening, it's a huge thing, and the effect it will have is just will go a long way, more than we can realize.
Because of course, it's not that I don't appreciate my straight friends or my friends who aren't gay or whatever. Of course I love them to bits. But as I was saying to my ex, like, when you're hanging out with lesbians, there's certain jokes that only another lesbian would understand, that would laugh at, If you try and crack a lesbian joke or something stupid or funny, or even like, maybe, I don't know, like lesbian drama or whatever, like when you're trying to talk about that stuff to your straight friends, they're just not going to get it, like, because only women who date other women understand some of the pitfalls and the issues and the laughter and the crazy things that come with that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. You're right there. Yeah.
And so that's what I'm saying. Like, you feel like, because some of my friends have said to me over the years, like, but why would it? My straight friends have said to me, like, I find that quite offensive that you want to seek out other lesbians, or like when you listen to podcasts or vlogs or YouTube videos, you're seeking out lesbian stuff. What's the like that? Surely that's prejudiced against straight people just as much as straight people could be prejudiced against lesbian. I said, no, it's not, because there's certain topics and there's certain things that a woman who dates other women that are going to understand. There's certain things. It's not really a culture, but it is different. And also, I said, you wouldn't have experienced the prejudice that we experienced growing up, or you wouldn't have experienced what it's like to come out. Like, if you're straight, you're never going to know what it's like to come out. You know what I mean? Or what that's like, and what it's like to walk down the street with a woman holding her hand and being...
Well, you're never going to have to be, as a heterosexual, go, hello, my name's Sarah.
And I'm a dyke. Yeah. It's like the idea that I can't kiss... I was trying to explain to my straight friends that when I'm in public and my girlfriend goes to kiss me, just kiss me on the lips to say goodbye, I have to think about that. I can't just kiss her straight away. I have to think about, which city am I in? Are there any homophobic people around? Is it late at night? Are we going to get attacked? Like, I can't just kiss my girlfriend. I have to think about that. And as a straight person, you're not ever going to experience that, unless obviously unless you're black and you're in a racist area or some similar thing. But you're never going to experience it from a gay woman's point of view. So that's why, yes, okay, maybe I shouldn't just want to hang out with lesbians, but occasionally I do want to hang out with my community because they understand what I've been going through, and we can laugh about the same things. And especially if you're talking about, if you want to talk about sex and relationships, like,
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I agree with that. I've always had this thing about, I mean, I don't know. I've never been confused about my sexuality, but because I've been kind of socially conservative to some degree, I probably don't believe much in gay rights or anything like that. So it's just, yeah, I used to find it weird to...
You don't believe in gay rights? What do you mean?
I can't say I don't believe in them, but I just feel like, I think it's because of my background in the kind of society where I come from. I just feel like we just have to live our lives, but not necessarily ask for the same rights that heterosexual people have. Well, I have my reasons. I guess it's a discussion for another day.
Yeah, I think when we met initially, we had this. Do you remember we didn't have an argument about it, but we had quite heated debate, because obviously I didn't know where you were.
Yeah,
I didn't know where you were from, and that in your country it was illegal and stuff. And do you remember I was quite offended by that? Do you remember? Because I was like,
yeah,
but what do you
yeah.
mean? Why shouldn't we have equal right? And now I can understand what Sarah's saying about how, from my point of view, that is kind of like internalized homophobia. Not really, but kind of in a way, because the idea that to me, I don't know if it's my generation, but I 100% think that regardless of who I choose to have sex with, I should have the same rights as a straight person or anyone. So yeah, that's fascinating that I remember that conversation we had now.
Right as a man, because let us not forget we are also women.
I know.
The whole
They don't let us forget.
Don't get me started on feminism, because women's rights as well. It isn't just about gay rights. It's actually not just being gay, but also being a woman.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
have you
when Trump.
You ever read Straight Expectations?
Oh
Gemma?
no, that sounds really good though.
Oh, it's gone out of print. It's really hard to get a hold of.
Oh, is it?
And I'm part of a feminist book club. I run a feminist book club on Facebook. And
you have to. Well, next time we do another podcast, we'll have to have a feminist one then. Chat.
To meet as a group. But now we're doing it by the technology of Zoom. I may add my colleague, my host, who does it with me, does that side of it. Because as you could tell, when Terry told me about how we were doing this, I did get anxiety.
Of course, because you're on the spectrum. Yeah, sorry, I didn't even think about that.
It's me. I'm not very.
Well, no, because if you're on the spectrum, I guess it would be.
Once I've done it, I'm cool. But
Right.
thought of it. No, I'm actually. I'm very keen on comedy. Was supposed to do stand up before lockdown, and then obviously,
really cool.
Yes. I do have. I love stand up comedy, and I'm quite passionate about it. But no, in relation to the book club, I'm very into feminist rights. I mean, but I get conflicted with some of my lesbian friends, because I'm very for the rights of everybody. But one of the things that's a hot topic at the moment, I'm really pleased that you obviously, I don't know if the drag queen that you're having on are they a gay man who does drag, or are they actual, are they trans?
No, they're not trans. Yeah, it's a gay. Although I'm doing a trans episode. I think it'll be the third the third now. In the next few weeks coming up, I definitely want to do, because I've got 4 very close friends who are trans. But no, he's a gay man who is he just dresses as a drag queen. Yeah.
Well, I mix with a lot of older lesbians, and some of them I've struggled with some of the conversations, because some of them are quite almost anti-trans. It comes across
turfy.
But I've found it fascinating, because I'm probably late to it, coming out late. So it kind of,
yeah.
I've nursed some patients who'd gone through like the surgery and have transitioned, and so I have a lot of respect, and I don't think people fully get what they go through, and it's not.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
I mean, they have the highest suicide rate of any person in the world.
I have a lot.
It's so sad.
And a lot of respect, because because I've seen what the people have gone through firsthand, when they've gone through the process.
Yeah, it's no easy. That's what makes me laugh when people say, "Oh, when they complain about." It's almost as if they think it's a flippant thing. It's like, have you any idea of what they have to go through, to transition into the sex that is who they are? It's not an easy thing to do. You know what I mean?
Because the discussions I have with some of my female, lesbian associates, and the ones who are very strongly, as I don't know that you use the I don't know the term, but it always seems to be men who are then transitioning to be women, but they never ever seem to talk about women who've transitioned to be men.
Oh, that's interesting you say that, because I have a friend. I won't I won't mention their name because I haven't spoke to them directly yet. But I have a friend who was a woman who transitioned into a man. A close friend of mine who lives down in London, and I was actually going to get him to come on and do the podcast if they were up for it, and talk about that for that exact reason that you don't hear about it very often.
But also, we've got the issues about being a woman and a true woman. They don't ever seem to. It's always directed more towards those who are transitioning to be women rather than women who've actually chose to transition to be men.
That's so true. I've never thought of that, but it does always seem to be the aggression seems to be towards.
Yeah,
that's weird, that isn't it?
I'm full of interest in.
I wonder if it's because. No, I don't know. Yeah, I've never thought of it like that. That is so true. Yeah. Even like all this controversy at the moment. Can't speak. Controversy at the moment with J.K. Rowling. She's been so anti-trans, but anti-trans to. But again with her, she's anti-trans only towards men transitioning into women. She never talks about that she's offended that a man would transition into a woman. So isn't that odd that they've got this? And again, like you say, I bet it's related to feminism. It's this thing of like, what is a real woman, and it always seems to be women that get it in the neck. That we don't even have rights, even when it comes to a trans person. It's like.
There's a current program on Netflix at the moment, Disclosure.
Oh, yeah. My friend talked about that on Facebook today. Said it was really, really good.
Watch it, and it's not an easy watch.
Yeah, that's what they said.
But yeah.
Yeah, my friend recommended that to be on Facebook today, so I'll check that out. Well, I'll tell you what, I've loved this chat. It's been amazing, even better than I thought it was going to be. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I really enjoyed it as well myself, and I'm glad you could meet Sarah. And it was nice listening to you both. And I was
two northerners nattering away.
Yeah, but it was nice to listen to you. Much of what Sarah was saying, I kind of already knew. I know about her condition and everything else. We've already talked about it, and she's very pleasant, and everything else that.
My girlfriend is very pleasant. She called you attractive as hell earlier. You've got to follow it up with something. You've got to say she's sexy as hell and she's amazing. She gives great head. I mean, her politics are on point. That's what I meant to say.
That was hilarious. She's very pleasant. Very.
What? Okay, well, yeah, and we talked about we talked about her conditions and everything, so it's not even an issue for me. It's something that we are prepared to deal with and handle together, so it's not such a big issue. So. Yeah. And obviously, thank you, Gemma, for having us both. Yeah.
Well, there's still lots of topics that I definitely want to. If you girls would be up for coming on to another one at some point, I don't know if you'd feel like doing it again.
Yeah. I'm sure. Yeah, definitely we can.
Because
we can. And
like Sarah, I'd definitely like to do talk about some of the feminist topics that, and stuff that you've been looking into.
Yeah, I think it's important that you could probably talk more to Terry about her experience as well, because I apologise if I do have a tendency to go on, so I'm sorry, Terry, if I've ended up.
Oh no, not even. No, yeah, but I mean, like Jeremy's saying, it would be quite interesting to talk about feminism as well, if you'd like.
Yeah.
Because it's an interesting topic as well.
I could also talk to you about your experiences, Terry. I could talk to you for weeks.
Yeah,
it's so different culturally. What you've been through and what you go through is so different to somebody in the UK. And I guess generationally as well. I guess, but also.
I think in relation to humanity and things, Terry has some amazing messages that she's a very wise and
deep. She's very deep.
Words.
I know her. So Terry, do you mind me talking about your YouTube videos, Terry? Is that okay?
Yeah, it's
can
okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So Terry, she's made a couple of YouTube videos which are they're just so good. Really, really good. And I'm actually going to be putting them on the blog. I've got her permission for that, because I think the stuff that they are promoting and talking about is so important right now with what's going on with COVID and Black Lives Matter and protests and riots, and the way that we're becoming kind of more pulled apart almost in a way. And so yeah, she's made these beautiful, very deep videos that I'm going to be posting on the blog. And like the Ubuntu, the message of Ubuntu, just wow, it was like an arrow in my heart. You know, it was like, especially with what's going on in the world at the moment. You know, I feel like they're quite important for us to, because when I watched them, it made me take a step back and kind of go, okay, we're going through all this horrible crap at the moment, but actually you're right, like humanity, we've got to come together as and humanity is more important and more beautiful actually than our differences, you know.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed them, and I'm happy for you to share.
Yeah, they actually affected me. I watched them 3 times, and sometimes I watch them while I'm going to sleep because they're quite relaxing, you know.
That's our voice. Our voice is very soothing.
Yeah.
They are very beautiful, and they promote a very good message. And that's what I was saying earlier about humanity. Her blogs are very much about a peace. It's about being peaceful and love and going. You know, and it is an amazing message, and she should be very proud of herself of what she's producing. So
yeah,
not just saying that because of
No, it's funny because you know when Trump came into, when you were talking about earlier about feminism and that and being a gay woman, when oh, she'll thank you later in other ways. When Trump came into power, at the time I was thinking about having a child. And I have a friend of mine who's actually from South Africa, and he's Black South African, and he offered to co-parent a child with me. So we would bring he's moved into my house. We're going to live together, and we're going to bring the child up together as, even though I'm obviously gay and you know he knows that, but like we're going to bring the child up together as co-parents, right? But when Trump came into power, I remember turning to my girlfriend at the time and being like, well, what the hell am I going to do? Like, I don't think I want to have a child anymore. And she was like, why? And I was like, because my kid will have a Jewish, gay, disabled mother, and will have a Black South African father. And I was like, and I want to bring it, with Trump in power and Brexit and everything, I was like, that kid, I mean, for God's sake, if your mum's Jewish, gay, disabled, and you're mixed race, like, I was like, that kid's got no chance. In this day and age, you know, I was scared. I was actually scared to have a child.
It's sad, isn't it? Because you shouldn't be like that. Because actually, that child would be a child of beauty and a child who actually gives such a beautiful message, really. And I think that's
well, yes,
yeah,
I mean,
but
thank God
with Trump, obviously, you'd have to think twice about it actually, because
I
don't.
I really did.
Yeah.
I actually for the first 6 months I was like, I'm not gonna. I don't want to do it. I don't want to have a kid. Like I tick every token box there is, and except for being a person of color, and my partner will be a person of color, the father, you know. But then I was talking to a neighbor who's a really beautiful woman who helped me through my illness so much, and she helps me with a lot of things to do with psychology and life and stuff. And she was the one that said to me, she was like, Gemma, you need to have that child more than ever. We need people like you having children like that, because if you don't, if only the alt-right type, if only kind of like, typically alt-right people are having children, it's going to make the world a much worse place. So she was like, you need to have that kid more than ever now, with Trump in power, to fight back. And I never thought of it from that point of view. And I was like, yeah, she's got a point, actually, So then I decided to carry on, to not be scared of having a child,
The only thing you have to be scared of is you're getting older.
Yeah, I am scared of that. Well, only because of the kid, like.
age, it's harder.
Mm-hmm.
Where eggs are, the older we get, sadly, the less healthy our eggs get, sadly. Another thing for women.
Yeah, I know, that is definitely a factor.
Men still spit it out until in their 80s, but there you go.
Okay, I was gonna say goodbye, but Teresa's just gone off. I don't know where she's gone.
Probably
Let me
trying to sort food out. Because they're an hour ahead of us as well. I haven't eaten but I got my son to bring me up some rather unhealthy snack. But
yeah, I had half a Whisper bar for breakfast, which wasn't healthy, and some crisps.
Well, I try to be very eat a very autoimmune healthy diet. I always have for years. But today, when Terry messaged me, I'd literally just got back in from being out at the shops to get a few bits, obviously because things have opened. So that was an interesting experience.
Well, thank you very much. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, so thank you.
Thanks so much, Eva.
Thank you so much, guys. No, it was really, really good.
Yep.
Thank you.
No.
And I hope
Thank you.
I hope you come back for another one at some point.
Yeah, definitely. Take care.
All right, take care.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Well.
Bye.